Time.
Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, LuckyEevee, Stryker, and Jordan. Today is our 51st episode, and we're discussing the 2005 Loonatics Unleashed episode, Wuthering Heights. So, let's get to it.
Oh, man. That
Yeah,
show.
Warner Brothers has never really known what to do with the Looney Tunes as a whole, despite them being some of the most iconic and most beloved animated characters, even dating back to when the actual WB studio was making Looney Tunes shorts. They never quite knew what to do with them. That's why they were probably so successful in the first place, because Jack Warner famously did not care about the Looney Tunes one bit. They didn't even screen the things before sending them to theaters, apparently.
Probably should have been a good idea to do so, especially with shorts like the Uncensored 11.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah, those unfortunately are not as good, but at least, but yeah, no, those are definitely not their finest moment. Let's do it that way.
Yeah. Well, you want real bad though? Try Buddy.
Oh yeah. Ouch. But yeah, Looney Tunes, more modern things has been pretty much divided into two categories. One of which were either like Space Jam, which was financially successful, but not really what the Looney Tunes were about, because even Chuck Jones famously threw a fit at the rap party of the movie, basically bad-mouthing the movie and how the Looney Tunes wouldn't act like that. He apparently got so heated that he actually ended up having to be taken off the set, believe it or not.
Oh man, here I thought Yosemite Sam had it bad in the anger department.
Yeah. And of course, in the 2000s, this continued with stuff like with Baby Looney Tunes, which the less said about that, the better.
Not bad show.
We had, it was. I get what they were trying to go for, but it just felt really derivative of Muppet Babies in a lot more ways than one.
Okay, yeah. To be fair, I don't think anything would really. I don't know. I haven't seen Muppet Babies, so I can't really form that opinion. But I will say the stuff I've seen about Baby Looney Tunes, despite still, having the whole Looney Tunes aspect, but kidified, it's pretty good. It's harmless. I don't know if it's as bad as people say, but it is definitely worth your time for the most part.
Right. Yeah. No, I could definitely see that. But yeah, now we're getting to Loonatics Unleashed, which basically began thanks to the huge success that they were having with Teen Titans at the time. Basically, they thought, what if we combine Teen Titans with the Looney Tunes? And this show has a very fascinating production history behind it, because the original designs of the Loonatics themselves, they were very angular and fierce looking. Like Ace Bunny didn't even have pupils at one point. And they did a huge marketing push with them. They did everything. Then they tested the design with the target audience. Kids were freaked out by these designs.
I remember this whole story. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Man. Kids were absolutely scared to hell of these designs. There was, I think, one of them said "Oh, it's an evil Bugs Bunny" and that. So they had to go back to the drawing board, quite literally, and tone down their designs. But that wasn't the only.
Seeing those things kind of reminded me of freaking stuff like Nutshot, or stuff that the early 2000s pretty much made as edgy or gangster.
Yeah, it definitely was trying to be that early 2000s. We're hardcore Looney Tunes. These aren't your granddad's Looney Tunes. We're hardcore. That was the original design.
Granted, it could have been worse. It wasn't that bad, all things considered, but I do understand the design, for better or worse, was pretty influential for the era, and to this day honestly kind of still is. But for Looney Tunes,
it did not work, unfortunately. So also the animation production time on this show was another thing that was insane, because apparently they had to do an episode a week. So that meant that they had to cut a lot of corners with the animation. So despite that, I will give them credit. They did the best they could. And the show looks pretty good. It actually does have some talented designs, real good voice actors, as we'll talk about in a little bit. And It feels like they did the best with what they were given, which wasn't much. It feels like, the obvious comparison to this was another show that was on at the same time, Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century, which is phenomenal. It is a great, great show.
Oh yeah,
It was on the
With that show more than I did. I grew up with that show, honestly.
Yeah, and it was on the exact same time as this, and it did this whole concept a million times better, It really is something else.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you want to see like a version of like the Looney Tunes, like superheroes and like a different type of setting, you really could just track down that show and watch it, because the show isn't terrible, but it's not really good either. And with that being said, let's finally get to the episode itself. So the episode.
I also will say this: Duck Dodgers had the better version overall of Marvin the Martian, like better voice in terms of voice and like in character overall. Yes,
and we'll talk more about that too in a little bit. But yeah, the episode itself begins with a news report beginning, and the human designs in this show are very reminiscent of the DC animated universe. If you notice, like with the black,
I can definitely see it.
Pupilless eyes for the most part. It does work, and I guess they were trying to evoke that feeling, even though it's based on Teen Titans, and Teen Titans they copied it, but they also did their own thing with it, a little more anime-esque. This feels more like trying to be like.
Had those, and
Robin more or less. Yeah, Dick Grayson did still have those.
He did.
Beat around the bush.
But it's like it feels like this is trying to copy more like Batman the animated series.
Indeed, I can see that. Or Justice League.
That too. Yeah. So what happened? So Misty, a snooty Misty, who is a snooty weather reporter, she's basically brushing off her assistant Paula as she's trying to give Misty good advice. Paula complains to the station manager about Misty's behavior, but he also brushes her off. He basically says that, "Oh, you look better behind the camera than in front of it." Now Paula is voiced by Kaylee Kuko, who ironically enough would later voice another DC villain, because she voices Harley Quinn in the Harley Quinn show.
And honestly, it works here.
Yeah. Also, for any of you who are listening to this who watched 2000's Disney Channel, she also voiced Brandy Harrington.
I'm sorry, what?
Fun fact there.
What?
Yeah, that was her.
Well then, I don't know if that's an incentive to watch the show or not, but that is very interesting.
Yep. So yeah, basically though, that means she went from like a knockoff of DC to playing an actual DC Comics villain. So yep, she's really moving up. Good for her.
Yeah, props.
Yep. So the station manager is voiced by Rob Paulson, who is an absolute legend, and he also plays Rev, the future version of the Roadrunner. And again, just the fact that he's in this makes it at least a lot better, because the guy's he always gives it 110% in everything he does.
Nice.
Yeah. So Paula gets angry, which causes a literal storm cloud to appear over Misty's head, and the fact that no one seemingly notices or cares about this, I think was an intentional joke, and if so, it's really, really funny. So basically, because of this, Paula has to become the anchor woman, and she reports on the storm that's approaching. She's struck by lightning while reporting on the storm, and it turns out that Misty then bursts out of her trailer, wants to know what's going on. Paula basically has gained control over the weather. She uses it to knock Misty away with a windstorm, and then she renames herself Weathervane. And it's at this point, I was watching this, and I was like, oh, so she's basically just a discount version of Livewire from the Superman animated show.
More or less, except with a little bit of a better twist that we'll get to a little later. But yeah.
Oh, definitely. And of course, Livewire never turned into a dragoness, so point to Weathervane in that case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we get the opening of the show, where we learn that it takes place in the year 2772, and that a meteor hit Acmetropolis, which ended up giving some of its inhabitants superpowers. Now, this show has kind of a double-edged sword with its main premise, because the Loonatics are not the Looney Tunes themselves. They are the long, distant descendants of the Looney Tunes. So it's not Bugs Bunny, it's Bugs Bunny's, great-great-great-great-grandson.
Yeah, a great-great-grandson, as freaking
lady says later in the
Cruz would put it.
Yeah. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because on one hand, it doesn't sully the Looney Tunes characters themselves,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, they don't really have as much personality as like the Looney Tunes did. Now, granted, that might be comparing apples and oranges.
Well, I mean, there's 2 exceptions to that, but we'll get to them in a moment.
Yeah. Oh, we will. But there are some nice touches with their power, like the fact that Tech E Coyote, Wile E. Coyote's, descendant, he has regeneration as a power, which is funny if you remember like the Wile E. Coyote shorts and how he basically got beat the hell out of in every single short. That is funny.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. So the
also Rev Runner, who is pretty much really freaking fast, but also talks really freaking fast.
Yeah, kind of like a Blur and Transformers.
So he's just Blur from Transformers.
I was gonna say he's Blur and Transformers, exactly.
Wait, Rob Paulson was Blur?
No, he wasn't Blur.
No,
Blur was voiced by the guy that talks really fast and did commercials.
Weathervane is basically Blur from Transformers.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Yeah,
One's fast
he's
and
Blur,
talks
but he's
fast.
also the Flash. He's a mix of Blur and the Flash, and yeah. Oh, man.
Exactly. So after the opening credits, we get to see Slam, who is the future version of Taz. He uses his strength to stop a satellite dish from falling. And one touch I will say that is good is that they did not have him speak. They had him basically say like Tasmanian devil type gibberish, and that alone shows that somebody was caring about it.
Yeah, and also it kind of reminds me a bit of the Taz show, which. Oh, man.
Tasmania. Yeah, that was a fun one.
Tasmania.
That was a fun spinoff. If you haven't seen that, definitely I recommend checking that one out.
And I think we might do an episode on that later. Who knows?
Yep, maybe someday. That would be a lot of fun if we do. Yep. So Tech E Coyote helps Ace use his heat vision to weld the satellite back on. And again, another little missed opportunity here is they didn't give him like a British accent, or they have him say that super genius, which again, real missed opportunity right there. They could have had that one for free.
Yeah. They could have.
Yeah.
They could have, but he's still a super genius.
Yeah, basically. But the voice actor for Ace, he's doing a decent Bugs Bunny impression. It's not exactly 1-to-1 like Eric Bauza does today. It's decent enough, I guess, to get the point across.
Honestly, hot take here. I don't know if it is or not, but imagine if the same voice actor who did Joey Wheeler did a Bugs Bunny impression. That would kind
of be that's kind of what it feels like. Yeah. So then we get to see Danger Duck, who is Daffy's descendant, arrives. He knocks Slam off the roof as he complains about missing Misty, his favorite TV personality, and having, again, as I said earlier, having basically a version of Daffy Duck in it just makes me think of like Duck Dodgers. It's like, well, why am I watching this when I could be watching the real Daffy Duck on Duck Dodgers? That kind of thing.
I can see what you mean. But
one thing I will say, his voice, Danger Duck, is really like almost 1-to-1 with like the original Mel Blanc. That's one thing I will give it credit for. Whoever voiced Danger Duck, that is a fantastic version of like Daffy Duck's voice. That is like almost pitch perfect.
Yeah, his character also is pretty accurate to Daffy Duck too, since they're both kind of shits.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit because man, he really goes all out. But Lexi, who is the future version of Lola, saves Slam from falling, and Slam then basically complains of danger. Of course, he does it in the Tasmanian devil gibberish, so that's just hilarious right there.
Yeah.
Which only Danger Duck can kind of understand his language of Slam's language.
More or less. I think other people can understand her language, but I'd have to double check again.
Yep. So basically, we get to see Misty blown away by the windstorm. She lands on the satellite dish. Danger gets hearts in his eyes, and he rescues Misty. Then we get a really funny gag. Like I say, the show isn't perfect, but on occasion it can strike on a couple of good jokes. This is one of them where Danger wonders, like, who would want to hurt Misty? And Lexi basically says, anyone who's ever met her, which is a good line.
Except for Daffy, apparently. Danger, who apparently has a boner for her.
Yeah, it's hard. In my notes, I actually ended up putting the Looney Tunes names, and then I went back and I was like, but wait, no, it's not Daffy Duck, it's Danger Duck. So I had to basically go back and change it.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah. But as the Lunatics fly on their jetpacks, they see Zadavia, their leader, who's telling them about the strange weather phenomena that's taking place all over the world. And Zadavia is kind of like, I guess, Gaia from Captain Planet type of character.
Or Zordon from Power
Zordon
Rangers.
from Power Rangers too. And it's like she has no real connection to the Looney Tunes themselves. So it's like, I get what they were trying to do, but at the same time, it just feels weird. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I know where she comes from, more or less, but man, she kind of feels out of place sometimes, but not in a bad way.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly right. So yeah, basically they fly to the city hall while Slam lifts up the news van to see the news editor. The man basically tries babbling what happens, and Ace tries to get him to speak English. We then get to see Weathervane. She's hovering in the sky with lightning surrounding her, and it's here where we see like her full villain form. And I have to admit, this is a pretty decent design. The blue skin and the white hair is a really unique touch. The kind of jumpsuit-esque outfit she has is really unique. And I have to say, for a show where, again, they did the best of what they could do, I feel like this was probably one of the more creative aspects. Because it felt like what they did is they had to have like a certain amount of villains. Like, okay, you gotta do this type, then this type, and this type. And they worked the best with the limitations they had.
I can understand that. Yeah, the limit. Honestly, for a show that was made in about a week, they pretty much did a pretty good job of putting in all the effort they could. Like, if they're gonna half-ass it, then they might as well do a good job of it, you know?
Exactly. So yeah, Weathervane then sees them, and she summons cloud monsters to attack them. And the Loonatics try to fight back, but find that they can't do much against them. And it's here where we get one of the weaknesses of the show, in my opinion, because the show is trying to balance action and Looney Tunes type slapstick. And it's trying to juggle two things at the same time and not doing very well with either. It's not in this episode, but I will give an example. There's one episode where a boulder falls on Danger Duck and he becomes an accordion, classic cartoon gag. Then, not more than like 5 seconds later, a boulder is about to fall on Ace and Lexi, and now it's a threat. It's like, well, what are you going to do? You have to pick one. Do they have like slapstick Toon Force humor, or are these legit dangers to them?
Honestly, I chalk that bit up to Danger Duck being quote unquote the comic relief of the group. Maybe Taz as well, and maybe Rev Runner as well, and maybe Tech. Who knows? But honestly, yeah, I try not to think too deeply on that.
Yeah, I definitely can see that,
But yeah, honestly, this entire fight, for lack of a better term, if Vea were there or someone who could manipulate the weather better, this fight would have been over instantly.
Oh, if only that would have been way better. If they had somebody like her in it.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, definitely would have made it a much better show. But in this case, one of these slapsticks happens when Ace accidentally zaps Tech E with his heat vision, and again, classic cartoon gag, with him being set on fire and that. And also, one thing that's weird, at least for me, is seeing Rev talk, because it's the character of the Roadrunner, okay, the Descendant, but it's him speaking, and it just feels weird. It's not as weird as like when they had the Pink Panther talk in the Pink Panther revival, and more on that on the episode we did on that one. But it is something that feels a little bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can kind of see that, though. Honestly, it still works. We get why it happens, since he's super fast. He has a speedy personality. So is his family, except for one. Who knows? But in any case, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely say. But I will say one thing that is creative is Slam having the ability to do like the Tasmanian Devil tornado move with electricity. That's fun.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I will say that
stuff
much.
that stuff you want to see more of. You want to see them use like classic Looney Tunes, aspects, but also rework it into like the super heroics part of things.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
So yeah. What happens next is Weathervane then has the cloud monsters use thunder or lightning, to try and basically scare them off. But Lexi uses her telepathy. She opens up a fire hydrant. Yeah, thank you.
All good.
But yeah, she uses her powers to open up a fire hydrant, which causes the cloud to expand. Rev then does the same thing with his super speed. Ace uses heat vision to destroy a fountain. Then Danger defeats the last cloud monster by, and this just from what I got from this episode, he throws some kind of a lava ball inside of it, which, okay, that's something.
Okay.
So yeah.
But my description, I think with Danger Duck's power, it looks like kind of like an egg, kind of. Like it splats a bit sometimes. When I've seen his power it hits an enemy and just splats like an egg just getting splattered on a wall, like a Looney Tune gag thing. Like you hit someone with an egg, it's gonna splat, and it looks like that with Danger Duck's ability.
I never thought of it that way, but that if that was intentional, that makes a lot more sense. I give him credit for that. That is a pretty good idea. So yeah, Weathervane then basically declares that they won this round, but she'll win it overall. She forces the camera operator to record her, declaring that she'll destroy the city by striking them with lightning. And it's here where Tech E gets electrocuted into a cloud of dust, like the original Shores. When someone would get hit by lightning, they turn to like cartoon ash and that, which is funny. But again, it takes away from like the action part of it because again, I know it's trying to be like comedy relief, but they're trying to be comedy relief and a serious superhero team. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I feel like the biggest problem is the show did not know what tone they wanted to pick with it.
I can see why.
Yeah.
For the most part. But the tone's fine.
But one thing that I do like the idea that Weathervane is still so stuck about Misty Breeze upstaging her. That is a fun little dynamic. It's a shame we don't get to see more of it. In fact, for a lot of it, Misty Breeze is actually out of the picture for a lot of the episodes, so kind of a missed opportunity there. But she basically blows the lunatics away on a windstorm. Ace swings in a lamppost, slams fast into a building, and Ace attempts to teleport himself, but he gets stuck inside a television, which, again, that's a slapstick gag that I like, because it is one that is conceivable, and it fits within the thing, and it's funny, like I said earlier, every third or fourth joke, they do land.
Yeah. Especially this moment where freaking wait, is this wait, are we about to get to this train moment?
Almost, yeah. We're just about there, I think. But yeah, what happens is Ace gets Lexi, Tech, and Rev out of the windstorm, and Slam uses his tornado to counteract the one Weathervane did. I like that he spins so fast that he ends up destroying the tornado. And yeah, it's here where basically Weathervane decides to unleash all the powers of her elements at once. Lightning starts to destroy buildings and a monorail track while the city starts to flood. And the Lunatics basically use all their combined powers to save the monorail from falling to the ocean. Sadly, we did not get confirmation if it was Homer Simpson that was driving the monorail. Donuts. Is there anything they can't do?
Not stop a bullet train, apparently.
This is if only they had. Yeah, I guess Acme Tropolis got scammed by Lyle Landley.
Oh my goodness, Lyle. Oh no.
Yeah. So basically, Ace opens the doors, much to the cheers of the monorail passengers, and it's here that Angron mentioned this earlier, yeah. But an old woman says, "Oh, I knew his great-great-grandfather," which is like, okay, that thank you for that.
This woman.
Yeah, it's like
she looks like Granny. Like if you see her, like how her design is exactly like Granny. Like
I guess, but
is she an immortal entity or something?
The one thing though is that Granny does show up in the show, and it's not this lady. So it's like I don't know what they were going for with this.
And she's also voiced by June Foray as well, the same person who voices her.
Yeah. Not in this. Not in this one. No. But yeah, I do think June Foray did reprise her role for this. One of the longest roles I think she ever did, by the way, because she started that in the 30s and she did her whole life. So God bless her for that. Absolute legend. But basically, getting back to the episode, sorry about the little tangent. The Lunatics all decide to confront Weathervane on the roof, and they surround her. By the time they get there, Weathervane has disappeared, and her cameraman tells them that she just flew away. Ace has all the other Lunatics evacuate the area, except for Danger Duck, because he's busy chasing down Weathervane. Which, again, this is the moment where I feel Danger Duck is the one character they got perfectly right, like with Daffy Duck. Because he's chasing Weathervane, not because she almost destroyed the city and endangered like millions of lives, No, he's chasing her because she insulted Misty Breeze. Doing something so petty is so in character for Daffy Duck. I mean, that is something that is like, absolute perfection kind of deal.
Yeah, it honestly feels like something Cartman would do, more or less.
But it's also something like, that would be a lot more violent though than
Oh,
either
hell
Daffy or
yeah.
Danger Duck.
Man's best friend reminds us of that little fact.
Oh God, yes. But yeah, Danger then catches up to Weathervane. He tells her off. He demands her to apologize. Weathervane keeps getting angrier. She knocks Danger out into the ocean. I like how he gets out of it and just quickly interrupts her big villain monologue in a moment that is just perfect because, again, it really feels in character for Danger, in this case, Daffy Duck, to just do that, to not give anything, to not even, care what the villain has to say. He just wants everything done and over with.
Yep, he just stands up for a role model who is a pain in the butt, but the way he's like, excuse me, I'm talking, you had your chance right now, Missy. This is my time to stand up for what I think is right, even though the person that he looked up to is a total pain in the butt and rude. I can see why the main villain is getting ticked off by it, so I can see her point.
Oh, hell
and from
yeah.
Daffy's point.
She's not...
exactly.
She herself is kind of in the wrong, but yeah, Daffy is a little...
Yeah.
no.
But now we get to the moment why we're covering this episode in the podcast, because Weathervane is just so completely infuriated by this point that she transforms into a dragoness. And I will say, the dragoness design is a pretty good one. She has the deep black scales and the glowing red eyes, which are a really standard design, but it's a pretty good looking one. But it's here that we get some really unique aspects that I've never seen any other dragoness in any other media really do. Instead of breathing fire, she breathes lightning, which is something
Not just lightning either. Weather.
Weather in general. She breathes like windstorms. That it is something that is so creative. It's like the one way that they took, the fact that she can control the weather and they put it with her dragoness form, and they did it really, really well. That is one thing I will give them all the credit for. That they definitely saw something unique with it, rather than just have her be like a generic, monster dragon. Even though she kinda is later on, but we'll get to that. This moment though is a really good one. And the fact that she flies by turning her back half into a giant cloud, that too is something that I have never seen done before. And again, really, really creative. I feel like whoever thought up of this really decided to go the extra step. Yeah.
Give her a freaking raise. Give them a freaking raise for doing this. So I'll also say that the head reminds me of both that dark dragon from freaking Danny Phantom and Kraid a little bit.
Huh. I can kind of see that. I really can kind of see that.
Same.
So and the way that the dragon form looks, sorry for interrupting, it looks like it's like a half a wyvern. Like her arms are just basically the wingspan, and you don't see the rest of the body because it's how it is. But I like how it looks. That her rest of her form is a wyvern.
Oh, definitely. It is something that looks really, really good. And just one thing that is kind of a shame, she's laughing when she transforms, but in her dragoness form, she does not talk, she only roars, so kind of a missed opportunity there. They could have had her, give villain monologues or something like that, but I guess what they wanted to kind of, wrap things up in a way, even though this is pretty early in the episode compared to a lot of dragoness transformations, because this is I think, in the last quarter of the episode rather than the last, 2 minutes. So what happens is she heads back to Acmetropolis and she uses her lightning breath to destroy all kinds of structures. Tex saves the crowd from having a radio tower crash on them. And basically they have to find a way to destroy her. And because she's basically a cloud weather dragoness, they have to find the hottest place in Acmetropolis that could evaporate her. And I like how they decide to use Danger as bait to draw out Weathervane. The Lunatics end up landing on a nearby tropical island while Rev pulls Danger along, and Danger looks like he's water skiing, which again, a really, really funny little gag right there. And I like how he's just continuously taunting Weathervane how much better Misty is than her, which again, feels like something classic Daffy would do. He just keeps egging her on in that. But it turns out that Weathervane, one of her many weather powers, is that she could breathe hail because she shoots ice balls at him. And it's here we get probably what I thought was the funniest moment in the entire episode, because the Loonatics decide to use Slam to throw a bomb into the volcano, but Slam just hits the button as soon as he gets it, which starts the detonation immediately. And in order to try to help it, he just rips the knob off the bomb, which again is something that I guess the timing on this gag is so well done. It really shows that they really were trying their best with this. I will always give them credit for that. So basically, Slam has to go up to the volcano to detonate it anyway, and Slam tosses the bomb into the volcano just as Weathervane and Danger makes it up there. Danger, of course, is the power of teleportation, and we see Weathervane blown up in the explosion, although perhaps she is not, as we'll find out in a second. And the Lunatics make it out there just in the nick of time. Tech laments that his portable lab was destroyed, and Ace basically snarks at, "Oh, you need to get out more." It doesn't feel really earned compared to because I guess maybe it's more expanded on, but this is like the 5th episode, but they don't feel like they have any kind of camaraderie, basically, for a superhero team. They just feel like they all have individual personalities, but they don't feel like they work together in the way.
I mean, if my memory reminds me that they all live in this big, huge tower in their headquarters. They have their own separate rooms and stuff. They kind of have characteristic balance, but sometimes it's just like the Teen Titans. They have this their tower, and these guys, the Loonatics, have their place, and they all have to get used to living with each other. Like Danger Doug's big inflated ego, Tech's smartness, and everyone else is just okay, we need to relax, and you gotta work with it, no matter how much one person or another is annoying as heck. So they don't show it. I agree, they don't show it much, but I'm yeah, Tech needs to get a life or something. Not worry about his beautiful portable lab. Dude, you need to get out more. I would see why Ace would say that.
Yeah. I can see that. But it's here we get another interesting moment, because they contact Devia, who she claims that although Weathervane's Dragoness form has been destroyed, she is still alive. But it was Weathervane as the Dragoness. It wasn't like she summoned a dragon or anything like that to chase them. It was her transforming into the dragon. The transformation sequence, sadly, was not really on screen for that long. It was covered up by some kind of a fog, but the indication that it was her as the Dragoness. So I don't know what they were getting at with it. I don't know if she ever showed up in the show again or not, or if she was meant to be a reoccurring villain, or if she lost her Dragoness transformation powers with it. Is that what they were implying? But some of that feels very interesting, because normally, if a villain was dead in one of these shows, they'd either be dead or they'd come back in an episode with some convoluted way of them getting out of their situation. But in this case,
except for Ink, which
yeah, rest in peace. But yeah, with this case though, it's like they were setting her up for something, and I don't know if they ever really delivered on it. But yeah, the episode itself has a pretty funny ending. Misty begins her weather report, and Danger basically interrupts, and he fawns over her, basically asking her to sign all kinds of weird and crazy merchandise, which, again, is really, really funny. And I will say this, like I said, they do get every other joke right, and this is definitely one of the examples of it, because it made me smirk,
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if she ever returns again or not, but who knows? But yeah, the series ended before we could do anything with that, but...
Yeah, but what happened with Loonatics is it lasted for 2 seasons, surprisingly. I always thought this lasted 13 episodes, but apparently it did well enough in the ratings to get 2 seasons. But it didn't seem to have much of a lasting impact, because aside from hardcore Looney Tunes fans, it seems to have been mostly forgotten. It wasn't well received by fans or children alike. Sam Register, who became the owner of WB, basically says that it showed them what not to do with the Looney Tunes, which on one hand I see where he's coming from because I think such a deviation from what made the Looney Tunes themselves really hurt the show in the long run. But at the same time, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, you know?
It has its quirkiness. It's unique.
It does.
Yeah,
let's
it's pretty
combine
unique, all things
DC
considered.
Yeah, it's like combining DC with Looney Tunes, and again, it was also working on the same schedule with other Warner Brothers shows for 4Kids, like Batman the Animated Series, Animaniacs, and other things that are like that. So they had to like find a way to make it more unique in its own style.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and for the most part, I feel it works. There are some flaws with it, but I can't say for certain that it's absolutely terrible. There are certainly worst ideas out there, but it is not that bad, all things considered.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and again, I really think it's a shame because the show could have had potential. It could have been something, but it just feels like it never really lived up to it. But like we said, it's not the worst thing, but it's not the best thing either. It's just kind of middle of the road. It's like a 5 out of 10 show in general, I feel. But now it is time for the question of the week, and it is, what is your favorite Looney Tune character? And I'll go first, and my answer is one that it's not one of the main characters, but he is a really predominant one, and I just, every time he shows up, he makes me laugh my head off, is Marvin the Martian. Which is another point in Duck Dodgers' favor, because he was all over that show. But it's any short he was in, every single one, just his voice makes me laugh, and like the demeanor, everything about it, it really just works out so well. The little green, like a bird, like Martians, those guys are iconic too. And like even just the voice, ew, that makes me angry, very angry indeed. Again, it's just so funny, you know. It's just
Duck Dodgers did his voice so perfectly. Like every other voice, like I could wax poetic on the same voice actor who did that moon alien from DuckTales 2017, or freaking that red dragon from the Vox Machina. I think he did that at least. But either way, man, that Duck Dodgers did freaking his voice so well.
I think I know who you're talking about. He was the actor who did Thordax in the Vox Machina. And he's dead.
Vox Machina. Unfortunately.
Shame.
Yep.
Yeah, that is a shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Marvin the Martian is definitely my pick because again, he's just so funny. I really just find him so hilarious. He's definitely my number one pick. So Angron, what do you have to say?
Now, this is going to be a little tough one because a lot of you would probably think that I would go for someone. Well, okay, you all probably don't know me, so I can't say that. But in lieu of someone like, say, Lola Bunny, or even, I could say someone like Daffy Duck. I could say someone like, oh gosh, what's a good example? I could say there were a few moments of Pepe Le Pew that were interesting, but otherwise, nah, I'm sorry. I personally have to say Roadrunner. Now, basically, this is pretty much the Looney Tunes either progenitor to speedsters like the Flash, Quicksilver, that sort of thing, or it's basically their answer to characters like, well, the Flash, because this guy is super fast, and the cartoons he's in alongside Wile E. Coyote and whatnot, they're some of the most iconic for a reason. They're not 100% my favorite. I don't have that much of an attachment to the Looney Tunes, but man, Roadrunner just hit something special, man. That, and the comics made him out to be a family person, so that gives him extra brownie points. And also his whole shtick was kept pretty dang consistent throughout the entirety of the series that he's been in, from Loonatics and other stuff onwards. Like, he's super fast, he's super speedy, he's just a mood, man. He's like a vibe, if you will.
Yeah, that is a great choice right there. Like I say, it's ironic that the Coyote Roadrunner cartoon started as a parody of Tom and Jerry. Believe it or not. Yeah, because
Nice.
Chuck Jones thought they were so stupid that he decided to like take it to like the ultimate satirical end, and he ended up making genius.
Yeah, and honestly, I think they're a little better than Tom and Jerry. Hot take, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I gotta agree with
basically
you
the
there.
Flash. Like I see this, and I think it's the Flash versus someone like I don't know, Lex Luthor, or maybe freaking. What's a brainy example of a Flash villain?
The Reverse Flash.
That doesn't count.
Okay.
I mean, maybe, but otherwise,
Lex
not really.
Luthor.
I said Lex
Brainiac?
Luthor. Like, it's someone super smart and relies on tech. Okay, you know what? I think I might go with Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
It's like the Flash versus Lex Luthor, which honestly reminds me of that one Justice League episode where the Flash and Lex Luthor traded bodies. And
that was a classic one. I
Oh,
love the moment,
yeah.
he takes off the thing. No, I will find out the Flash's secret identity. He takes it off. I have no idea who this is.
And I also like Flash and Lex Luthor's body where he like exits the bathroom and one of the villains is like, "You're not gonna wash your hands." Like, no, cause I'm that evil.
Yeah, it's just that too.
I love that episode. Like, oh man, that's honestly pretty fitting. I'm gonna go with that. Roadrunner and Coyote are pretty much the Flash versus Lex Luthor, and it's awesome.
Yeah, that works out perfectly. That works out absolutely
comes
perfectly.
full circle.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my pick.
That's great. Yep. So, Stryker, what would you say your favorite Looney Tune character is?
Oh, well, I grew up watching Looney Tunes, actually.
Nice.
And originally it was the Tasmanian Devil, actually, because, like,
nice.
I even had a stuffed animal based on him when I was a kid.
That's awesome.
But nowadays, I even watched a video on the character. Nowadays, it's Wile E. Coyote.
Nice.
Because like me and my mom, we reference those cartoons all the time.
Oh man, my stepdad references Wile E. Coyote. Wile E. Coyote, super. Oh, imagine the voice actor for Maximilian Pegasus doing a Wile E. Coyote reference.
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
I would not put that past him.
Honestly, I can see, given how Maximilian Pegasus is deck revolves around the Toon archetype, that would honestly be very fitting.
But I mean, like even the voice actor, just his personality, I would not put that past him.
Oh hell yeah!
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah,
oh man,
my choice is Wile E. Coyote because, like, I feel like I have a sort of personal connection to the character because, like, me and my mom, joke about stuff like that all the time.
Nice.
Great choice right there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, Jordan, what would you have to say?
Well, I would personally pick Bugs Bunny because I love how sneaky and smart he would to get out of a sticky situation. But my personality would have to be Daffy. I just love how mischievous, and he's like, maybe a greedy little bugger, but I'm a greedy little bugger. Like, he can just go for anything.
I can see that. Oh, interesting fact about Bugs Bunny. He and Mickey Mouse are apparently canonically buddy in spite of the whole Warner Bros. Disney rivalry.
Roger Rabbit.
Rabbit. Yep.
Yeah, which is very surprising given nowadays. But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it would be because with Daffy, he just thinks of, like, okay, the good thing, but also, like, okay, I'm gonna go further with the pranks and get what he wants, even though it's gonna bite him in the beak. But wait, how many times he got exploded in his beak?
Oh yeah.
Times.
I also like the little. I also like the little thing that they did with the Mortal Kombat movie, where like it's Daffy Duck just going all freaking loony and whatnot. Like, it's all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's just like shows Scorpion just grabbing him by the neck. Get over here.
I know that
Yeah.
was so.
Over here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And then they
Never
did
seen
it
the-
sort
with
of
Shaggy.
reverse.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Shaggy version.
yeah.
Get over here, man.
Yeah, so
that was
I
great.
would go with Daffy, even though I don't like Danger Duck or any other version that Daffy has done. I like how in the original Daffy how he is, and I did like how it is. Even when you see his creative mischievous in the Who Framed Roger Rabbit with him and Donald Duck.
Oh,
Same
hell
thing.
yeah.
So my vote is going for Daffy Duck. Is my
Nice.
go-to.
Nice.
Yes, that is a great choice right there. And Evie, what would you have to say is your favorite Looney Tunes
I
character?
guess I don't really watch enough Looney Tunes to actually formally an opinion on any of them.
It's all good. It's all good. Nope. Oh, and Math Machine, who is not here, but he wrote to me. He would like to give us what his favorite Looney Tunes character is, which is a very interesting one. He has the Dover Boys and Dan Backslide from the Dover Boys. He says that it was a pure distillation of Chuck Jones' insanity, and it is the single funniest Looney Tunes short out of them all that I've ever seen.
Oh,
So-
I can see why. It's iconic
Yeah.
for a good reason.
It is.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is.
Oh,
and
man.
It took them a long time to be iconic too, but when they did, I mean, how many memes have you seen referencing like just that one short? And it is so.
Oh no! Over here! Over here! Yeah, I also like.
No one will ever know.
Oh yes, that one. Interesting fact about that, actually. Apparently before this and Draft Horse, he made freaking that mouse character. What was his name?
Sniffles.
Sniffles the mouse. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh no, Sniffles.
Sniffles is like the
Yeah.
original, like one of the original characters. He kind of disappeared after Bugs Bunny's introduction. He was in like the mid to late 30s, and his shorts are okay, but they're not really anywhere. But
Yeah,
no,
they were trying to emulate the Disney style for the most part, and weren't exactly like trying to rip them off, unlike Foxy. But yeah, I can kind of see why Honestly, actually, the most recent thing that Sniffles has ever been in was actually the Donald Duck. No, not the Donald Duck.
Duck
What was
Dodgers?
it? Yeah, no, the Looney Tunes Christmas Carol movie, Bah Hum Duck.
Ah,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. That's interesting that they even brought him back, though. But no, like I said, Matt's pick for the Dover Boys, that is a genius pick. That is like one I never would have thought of in a million years. But
Me
when
neither.
you read it, you really think about it, and it's like, oh, yeah, they are really that good. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now it is time for the patent-pending Dragoness Scale, where we rank the Dragoness. And for Weathervane, it's interesting because I do like the design. I do like the fact that they gave her, a more unique set of abilities compared to most Dragonesses with the weather breath, like her breathing lightning and wind and fire. That is such a cool touch. The fact that she flies by becoming partially a cloud is really unique. And overall, I just wish she had actually personality, though. Like she actually spoke or like she interacted with them in a way that didn't seem like she was just a monster.
Yeah, more or
Yeah.
less. Honestly,
Yeah.
the whole thing that she got started with is kind of a little convoluted as well.
Yeah,
Not too
that's
convoluted,
it.
unlike Final Fantasy VII, but yes.
Yeah, it felt
Oh, man.
really kind of all over the place in a way. But with that being said, I do like it enough. I feel like they had enough uniqueness with her to where I would probably give her maybe it's a little higher than she deserves, but just the fact that I've never seen the idea of a weather elemental dragoness before or after this TV show,
Too bad
I'm going to
that's
give her a
high.
7 out of 10. Yeah. So,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
that's going to be my pick, 7 out of 10, which might be a little more than she deserves, per se. But I'm sorry. I mean, they're just so creative with it. And if they gave her a little more character, she'd be higher. But as it stands, the design is good. And again, the unique aspects are what really gives her such a high score, in my opinion.
Nice.
So, Angron, what would you have to give her?
I'm also going to give her a 7 out of 10. It's a fair assessment. She does nothing completely wrong. And honestly, the dragon transformation looks pretty cool. And again, it is a pretty unique thing. But given the show and the fact that like how it happens is a little loosey goosey for the most part, I can't rank her any higher as well. So I'm also going to give her a 7 out of 10.
It's all good. It's all good. So, Stryker, what do you have to say?
I barely paid attention during this part, and I
understand it can be hard to sit through sometimes.
I can see that.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion, to be honest.
Well, if you had to choose a ranking, would you also choose 7 out of 10 or a little
I
lower?
never even saw the Dragoness form.
Okay, give me a sec. I got you, buddy.
No idea. It's all good. So, you want to put like not applicable, or you want to just wait a second?
Yeah, give me a second.
No, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, no. As a whole, like I said, this really, as this again, Loonatics as a whole, to me, it just seems like a show where they did the best of what they could, but it's like I get the feeling that no one really wanted to work on it, but they tried making the best of it anyway.
Indeed.
It
All
felt
right.
like they tried a little too hard to make it like Teen Titans, like you said.
But yeah,
Okay,
I get what you mean. Anyways, here's the
Marvel.
dragon.
yeah,
Marvel's DC.
yeah, exactly. So what would you have to say?
I can barely see.
Okay,
make
here's
out
a better
dragon.
picture. Hang on. I got you, buddy.
It's all good. It's all good.
And here you go. Here's a better picture.
Okay, thank you. I don't have an opinion on this. I'm giving it like 4.
All right.
Okay, 4 out of 10. All right.
All good. It's all good. So, Jordan, what would you have to give her?
I like what I said that her dragon form is like a wyvern, and there've been a couple of weather dragons cloning up Spyro, who was an ice dragon. It kind of hits, but I like how it turned out. Like, yeah, she was just gonna show her rage to the Lunatics. Like, I've had enough. This game is done. Turns into a giant dragon, and you're like, oh, that's a problem.
Yeah, I can see why.
I'm gonna give her 7.
Ooh,
because
nice.
I feel her, because one, if you're working as a news reporter and you want to like tell this famous lady who's been on TVs and stuff like, hey, here's my opinion, you get shut down twice by the people that you're working with. I could see why her anger and rage would just be what it is. Like, I'd be that too. If I get thrown off like that, I'm going to be turned into a dragon and attack the city to be like, hey, this is my point here.
Yeah.
Man, imagine if that was an actuality. Like, oh my gosh.
That would make things a lot more interesting with the local news. Let's do it that way.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm giving her 7, maybe a little bit of, like, maybe a 7.5.
All right.
Gotcha.
Round off to 7. It's all good. So, Evie, what would you have to give her?
I'd say 7. She looks nice, and she kind of looks like Maleficent.
All right.
I could see a little bit of Maleficent, but I feel like I don't know. I just feel
it's absolutely the purple.
Yeah, probably that is the purple darkest scales that really make you think of it. And Math Machine has also given me his ranking for Weathervane. He says that he ranks her a 6 out of 10. He says that good design, well animated, but there was barely any personality with the person before she became a dragon to begin with, and after there was nothing but giant monster. That is verbatim what he wrote to me to put down, so I will do that. I can kind of see his point there, especially with that Weathervane as the Dragoness doesn't really have a lot of things to say or to do, really, but I still think, again, they did enough unique stuff with her that she deserves a pretty decent score altogether. So, that about wraps it up for this week. If you have any questions, or if you want to talk about what other attempts you do to update the Looney Tunes, feel free to email us at fierydiscourse@outlook.com, or visit us on Twitter at twitter.com/fierydiscourse. Next time, we'll be talking about a different kind of classic cartoon animated Dragoness, because we'll be discussing the 1966 Gumby short, Dragon Daffy. Not Daffy Duck, sadly, but it's going to be a fun one regardless.
Oh
Because
yeah.
If you haven't seen anything with Gumby, it goes places. Gumby goes to a lot of weird places. Maybe not in this short in specifics, but in general, it's just going to be so much fun to talk about, especially a lot of the weird things Gumby has done.
I'm guessing it's not as bad an acid trip as Felix the Cat.
No,
but honestly,
it goes
Felix
places.
the Cat. Oh man.
It goes places too. It does go places,
Like,
though. I
there's
will
a
say
lot
that.
of shows that go places.
But yeah, that's going to be it for this week. And until then, thank you guys so much for listening and take care.
Laters.
Later.
Bye.
Adios.